This is where Indian culture as we know it began. The Indus Valley civilization, which flourished nearly 5,000 years ago, gave a high quality of life to its citizens and had a developed urban society. The Indus Valley seals which have been unearthed depict dozens of plants and animals such as the lion and the rhinoceros. But when one walks on the Indus Valley site today, it feels like walking on a desert. Where is the vegetation that would support the fauna seen on the seals?
The reasons for the climatic changes that led to the decline of the Indus Valley civilization are most certainly natural, unlike the present environmental changes, which are largely man-made.
Clearly, India and the world face an environmental crisis of massive proportions. And yet, one of the most important features of the wisdom of India is the manner in which the relationship of humans to their surroundings has been thought about down the ages.
Tadam shvam shauvaraniyo jyotish kumbhasya dhimahi.
O sun, with golden aura, through your guidance all creatures move. Bless us with increasing comforts each and every day.
Om Gayatriyai Devyai Namah. Om Gayatriyai.
There are few hymns to the beauty of nature which can match the power of the earliest Vedic hymns. Whether it is to Surya, the sun god, addressed in the Gayatri Mantra, or the numerous hymns singing the praises of the river Sindhu and later the river Ganga, the forces of nature have been a potent presence in Indian thought from the earliest days.
The divine waters, purifier of hundreds, rejoicing in their innate nature, pursue the paths of nature's forces. May you offer to rivers your tribute, rich in affection and love.
The very name of settlement in India is Abadi, which comes from Ab, water. Our settlements are along rivers. Every source of every river is a temple. The goddess could be that tiny piece of stone, but in her is embodied the notion that every river in this country is sacred.
Look at our myths. These are all ecological statements. Just as the great myth of the descent of the Ganga, which is what else is it? That the waters emerged out of greed of man. Someone came and sipped up all the water. And after that, what happened was that the waters went up. Then there was famine and pestilence and so on. So what to do? Then austerity of man was necessary. A Bhagirath had to stand on one foot and do tapasya. But then the waters can come down uncontrolled. So then they had to go again, that if the Ganga came down and she would be uncontrolled, there would be again flood. So then Shiva said, I will open my jatas and she will be contained in that. Sounds like a very nice romantic tale, but no. What are they saying? If waters have to emerge from the glacial levels, then they have to be restrained and controlled. How? By the forests of the Himalayas. And those jatas of Shiva are our great devdar and our pine trees.
In an agrarian land, man and life are in rhythm with nature, and celebrations follow the seasons. Festivals are a time to pause and pray to the cattle that bring prosperity to the people. Harvest time, a time to rejoice and dance, to convey Anand, the bliss that is the innate nature of man.
Whether it's Hinduism, Sikhism, Islam, these came very late, much later. Much before them was the nature worship that actually created all these various tribal cultures which now we look down upon as backward. My God, they are futuristic, and I think science will live to learn that.
Among the remote tribes of India are the Ongis, who live in harmony with nature as a part of nature. They gently use her gifts without harming her creatures. For instance, this plant, whose juices protect them from the stings of bees and enables them to remove the honey without destroying the bees. This is important for the Ongis, who live in the isolated islands of Nicobar and the Andamans. Theirs is a world that necessarily has to be self-sufficient. Insights, such as the ones that the Ongis can offer, are what we need today.
O Earth, thy center and thy navel, all forces that have issued from thy body. I am the son of the earth. Earth is my mother.
First thing is to respect them, not to think that they are barbarians. I always tell people, go to learn from them, not to teach them. First learn from them. You see, it's not they do not hunt, but before hunting, silently in their mind, they beg forgiveness of the animal or bird they are killing, because they are killing it. That's very sacred with them. They will not tell you, but they will say that I beg forgiveness of you because I am hungry. I have to kill you.
Take the Bishnois, who not only love nature and are close to it. Their religion dictates veneration for all creatures on earth. Legend has it that in the 18th century, the Bishnois sacrificed their lives to save their trees from the axe. This event has provided inspiration for similar contemporary environment movements in India.
Many of these people, they live inside our parks, our sanctuaries and national parks, etc. And I'm beginning to believe that protecting those communities from us, from me, is virtually almost as important as protecting the tiger himself, you know. Because if you don't protect these people, if you don't protect their wisdom, if you don't protect their cultures, you actually obliterate your own roots.
Tapovan, or sacred groves, are deep forests, undisturbed by man or by social dictum. For years, there were sacred groves all over the country, protected by the local people.
कारण की कशावर आता जे वाडवडील वागत आलं तसं आम्ही वागलो आणि आता आमची मुले पण अशीच वागणार काय इथं आम्हाला हे काही तोडायला अधिकार नाही आणि हे तोडलं काय बा अचानक जर विसरबळ जर काय गेलं तरी आम्हाला चाचणूक काही ना काही घडते.
A scene you may find even in a side street of a busy town is the worship of the sacred banyan tree, part of the ritual of tree worship practiced all over India. A recurring motif in Sanskrit literature is that of Kalpavriksha or Kalpataru. Whatever you wish for can be granted by the branches of this wish fulfillment tree. The Kalpavriksha, in a wider context, represents the entire green cover of the earth. So long as we protect the environment will protect and provide for us. Vrindavan, the home of Krishna, the cowherd god, was once thickly wooded. Devotees believe that the spirit of Krishna lives on here. In an act of reaffirming their faith in Krishna's teachings, devotees and local residents are participating in a program of reforestation to restore this sacred site.
कोई अगर पेड़ों को खराब कर रहा है तो उसको जाकर रोक सकते हैं, तो ये गलत कर रहे हैं। यहाँ से जब हम परिक्रमा देते हैं तो प्रत्येक पेड़ की गौर करते हैं कि पेड़ की लता नीचे को जा रही है तो उसको अब ऊपर कर दें। वो पेड़ हमने कई बांध भी दिए हैं, जो नीचे झुके थे उनको बांध के तैयार किए हैं ऊपर। तो इस प्रकार से उनकी संभाल भी देख रहे हैं। मन है तो सब कुछ है, मन नहीं है तो फिर कुछ नहीं।
That Vrindavan was once thickly wooded is apparent from miniature paintings like this. The forests, rich with multi-hued flowers and orchards, were the favorite spot for Krishna as he dallied and danced with the gopis or maidens and tended his cows. The creepers and branches of the trees of Vrindavan are verily the delicate limbs of the dancing gopis. How could anyone dare to cut them? Krishna, the avatar or incarnation of Lord Vishnu, the protector and preserver of the universe, is one of the greatest figures in the Hindu tradition. Among the many lessons that he teaches us is a tremendous respect for the environment. Spending his early life as a cowherd, he rejected ritual worship in favor of an earth-based practice of religion that recognized the sacred in the everyday relationships between human beings and their environment. And one of the obvious manifestations of this in Hindu society is the reverence given to the cow. Nandi, the bull of god Shiva, is regarded as his vehicle. But as one of his favorite devotees, he always has a special place outside Shiva temples, underlining the fact that there is no distinction between man and animal in the eyes of God.
India is a civilization based on the forest and on diversity. Where this gets referred to is the Ishopanishad, where it's very clearly mentioned that this creation is meant for all beings, and every species must farm in ways that they leave enough space for the well-being of other species.
Reverence for nature and its creatures may extend to extremes, as in this temple dedicated to rats. These rodents are well taken care of, and this may include bathing in milk if they so desire. Elsewhere, however, in agrarian India, the rats are pests and a menace to the crops. This leads to the veneration of the snake, the rodent's natural enemy.
भारत देश में ये जो कृषि प्रधान देश है, इसमें जो भी धान उगता है या हम लोग गोडाउन में रखते हैं, स्टोर करते हैं, उनमें से करीब 26% धान चूहे खा लेते हैं, और उनके ऊपर जो नेचुरल कंट्रोल जो रखता है वो सांप ही है। इसलिए सांपों का महत्व हमारे जीवन में ज़्यादा रहा है।
In Indian mythology, snakes are an image of spiritual power. As a snake is liberated by casting off its skin, so is the human soul supposed to liberate itself by casting off the body. Once a year, it is the day of the snake. On a special festival day called Naga Panchami, snakes are worshipped. Later, however, they are set free back to the jungle where they belong.
Our worldview is a much more embedded, much more webbed in nature of life. There are many connections. We don't have as strong distinctions between various orders of being. We do not differentiate between the animal and the human that much. The worlds of animals and human flow into each other, and that's why also I would imagine consciousness of animals as equals, which of course we saw in all our religions, Buddhism, Jainism, Hinduism, and that is, I think, very much of this animating spirit and not human being as the chosen of the god.
God pervades both the animate and the inanimate, says the Isa Upanishad. It is this worldview that translates itself in the free access that monkeys have to the Sun Temple in Rajasthan in northern India. They interact, unafraid, not only with the human visitors, but other animals as well, in peaceful coexistence in God's world.
Unlike the religions which originated in West Asia, religions with Indian origins do not describe an absolute division between humans and animals and even plants. The reason for this is that a human being may have been born as another species in a previous birth. And in this view, to harm one's fellow creatures is to actually disturb the moral fabric of the universe.
At Shravanabelagola, one of the oldest Jain pilgrimage centers, stands one of the largest monolithic statues of the world. Bahubali is one of the figures of Jain history revered for his devotion. It seems that during his long period of penance and austerity, Bahubali absorbs nature himself and raises the earth to heaven.
I do not want a kingdom, nor a place in heaven. All I wish for is to end the suffering of animals who are sad and sick. This is my only wish.
हमारी मदर के टाइम से हमारे करीबन 25-30 साल से हमारे हिंदू धर्म में मान्यता है कि गाय हमारी माता गिनी जाती है, इसलिए हम इनको अपनी भावना से पूजन करते हैं और हमेशा आके खिलाते हैं.
Jainism is a religion that stresses strongly on non-violence and care of God's creatures, however small they may be. Panjra poles, or homes for sick and old animals, many of which are supported by Jains, translate the idea of animal protection into concrete action. Panjra poles are, of course, institutions for sick creatures. But what if an injured bird strays into town? Years of religion, mythology, and culture have created an ethos so that instinctively an entire village creates space for a stranded pelican and adopts the bird. Or perhaps the pelican has adopted the village.
May all creatures look upon me as a friend. May I look upon all creatures with friendship. This view is the basis of Sadachar, right behavior.
Once upon a time, there was a learned scholar of medicine named Jivak. One day, sage Jivak was sent on a search mission by the creator, Lord Brahma. Go forth and find me on earth a plant that has no medicinal value whatsoever. Sage Jivak, so the tale goes, searched the earth for 11 years in vain. He could not find a single plant or herb or tree that did not have medicinal value. There is in India an intrinsic bond between nature and divinity.
Whatever I dig from thee, earth, may that have quick growth again. O purifier, may not we injure thy vitals or thy heart.
I think it's still the contemporary reality of about 60 to 70% of India. The reality that is in the villages, the realities where people labor, where they produce their food, where every time they dig, put their plow into the soil, they apologize to the earth and say, sorry, we don't want to hurt you more than it's necessary to feed ourselves. Each time they put the seed, they say a prayer to it and say, give us abundance and may you be exhaustless.
Traditional methods of medicine like Ayurveda list literally thousands of herbs for their medicinal qualities. But it's the destruction of the natural environment that is leading to the extinction, to the destruction of these life-saving and life-enhancing plants. For instance, this plant, it's a rare plant. It's known as the pandanus plant. The roots of this pandanus plant are medicinal. The flowers are very, very sweet smelling and are used as decoration by the ladies in their hair. And its leaves are used to wrap rice balls, which are then steamed and offered in South Indian temples to the deities and even to the devotees as a prasad. So you see, it's a multiple use of a single plant, and the community knows the use very well.
Many old Ayurvedic medicines are now finding favor as an alternate therapy to modern drugs. Isabgol is a wonder plant derivative used for centuries in Western India. The little seed's husk has the remarkable power to cure both diarrhea and constipation, as the case may be.
We're talking on one hand of numerous sort of folk streams which are spread in different parts of the country with wide regional variation. These are practiced in rural areas by the villagers. Things like Ayurveda, Unani, Siddha, Tibetan medicine, all these are expressions of the classical stream, and this is a codified stream expressed in 100,000 manuscripts. Now here is where we are just simply being blind to the enormous amount of talent and resource and knowledge that is lying within the community itself. This local health traditions, the Lok Swasthya Paramparas.
Holistic and natural healing systems like Ayurveda, developed through the centuries, do not aim at merely curing the disease, but seek to harmonize the body and restore it to its natural state of equilibrium.
The protecting of forests was something which was very well recognized by our ancients. After all, it's in the forests that herbs and medicinal plants grow. Many traditional homes today also have these plants, plants like tulsi or the neem. And in fact, the tulsi, which is considered sacred, is an essential part of any traditional courtyard, which is incomplete without this plant. This is a very interesting plant. There is a little seed and there's lovely green leaves. What is this actually?
This is a Pongamia tree, twig. This tree is a very popular tree in southern parts of India.
Yeah.
And the first thing known about this tree is that it is very cool. It is called nature's refrigerator.
So nature's refrigerator?
Yes, nature's refrigerator. When somebody has some tender coconuts to keep it cool for a long time,
yes,
he will cover it with this. With the leaves, with the twigs, he will cover it up. And they will keep cool for almost a whole day.
So now the oil from the fruit is used for lamplight.
Traditionally it was used for lamp lighting. And now it is being used on a regular scale by the villagers as a substitute for diesel. It has been tried, tested and certified by the Indian mines.
We always talk in terms of formal knowledge, which all of us generate within the laboratories, wearing white coats and working in laboratories. But what has happened is that for centuries, there is a traditional wisdom that has come in through our artisans, through our farmers, and through folklore and so on. And I believe that that is some of our richest heritage. In fact, it is unfortunately rather scattered, and unfortunately we have not tried to derive the best advantage out of it.
For centuries across the subcontinent, each community has evolved its own indigenous health system based on locally grown herbs. Serious efforts are now being made to understand, record, and codify this information systematically.
While traveling in the forest of Kerala, these tribals gave us some small fruits they were eating, which can give you immediate spurt of energy. You don't feel fatigue. I subject this plant first to ethnopharmacology investigation, and finally we found that it has a lot of potential as a immuno-enhancing, adaptogenic, particularly anti-fatigue.
As we rediscover our ancient herbal knowledge, so we find ourselves embroiled in modern problems. Who owns this treasure of nature? In a unique move, the Kani tribe of Kerala shares in the commercial utilization of their herbal wisdom.
There have been demands that indigenous communities the world over, they have a right on what they know, because they have kept those knowledge streams for generations. The first time in the world, it's a historic event that a particular tribal community has been given benefits, actual money, hard money, for their knowledge.
Traditional Indian houses are in tune with the elements. They are adapted to the diverse requirements of the climate. They create spaces and structures that not only form an integral part of the environment, but they also reflect the social and the philosophical ethos of the community.
Every built form is a mandala, a model that represents the nature of the cosmos. From the ancient sacred structures like stupas to modern low-rise housing, Indian architecture reflects forms found in India's geography, which have meaning for another landscape, that of the Indian consciousness.
पहले तो सब लोग इतने पैसे वाले नहीं थे, तो सबको कॉस्ट में भी ऐसा था कि अपना मटेरियल हम ही बना ले, तो अपने ही खेत में से मिट्टी लेना, अपने ही खेत में से ईंटें बना लेना और अपने ही खेत से बनाना, ताकि जीव हिंसा की भी बात इसमें बहुत बड़ी है। बहुत कम जीव मरते हैं बनाने के टाइम पर, और अपने ही घर की चीज़ अपने घर में काम में आती है। और इसमें काफ़ी टेक्निकल चीज़ नहीं चाहिए, क्योंकि एक मंजिले या दो मंजिले का मकान होता है, उसका स्ट्रक्चर भी नीचे से हैवी रखते हैं, तो इसकी वजह से ये काफ़ी मुझे तो अच्छा लगता है।
Cow dung mixed with mud is commonly used to plaster the walls and floors of rural homes. It's both hygienic, antiseptic, and beautiful.
When you come into a humid place, here you need the breeze. The humidifying the air won't cool it. It's already very humid. So you have to have no walls and as much breeze like a veranda. So this gives two completely different kinds of house types, and in turn two different kinds of human habitation. The South Indian villages would be separate bungalows, separate houses, and the breeze always goes through. Padmanabhapuram Palace near Trivandrum. It's a very human place and it's very intelligent. It deals with climate in a wonderful way, so that the breezes are all the time flowing through this palace, and it's all the privacy is done by changes of level which match the roof, so that the king would be here and the courtiers around him, and they come in a descending pyramid, but the roof is doing the same. So that look at the things which happen there. That means when you look out from there, you're not looking at the hot land around you. You're looking only at the grass, which is within the 20 feet or 30 feet around. So you feel much cooler.
Buildings, according to which part of India I was in, would be built of stone or mud or wood or even bamboo and mud. And then, of course, I found to my amazement that very often using these, to me, what appeared to be very primitive materials, had been up perhaps for 50 years or 100 years or even 200 years. So obviously there was something in them that made them stand up. Mud, for instance, was very rarely just mud. They would mix it with all sorts of things. In one area, they'd been mixing it with chopped up straw or busa or something like that. In another area, they would slash a cactus plant, and out would come a white liquid, and they'd mix this with the bucket of water and mix it with the mud. It was a sort of glue that stuck it together. All sorts of things.
When you look at North India or anywhere in Central India, it's a dry, hot climate. The architecture for that kind of thing, whether it's a little town or a big palace, is really to cut out the winds which are coming in, bringing in dry heat, and then you catch the air which is within the walls and you humidify it through a fountain or something, and you get wonderful examples of this all from the palaces down to little houses. You get something like in Jaipur, the buildings there. You know, you've seen that Palace of the Winds, the Hawai Mahal, yes. And it's absolutely brilliant. It's like a big radiator of some motor car or something. The breeze comes through, and they had this water dripping on the jali, so that the breeze was humidified.
These meditation cells, built for the Jain monks, are a welcome relief from the soaring temperatures outside. An ingenious system of water canals and air ducts provide a natural method of air conditioning. All this in the 2nd century BC.
There's an old saying which says something like, we build our buildings and then our buildings build us. That's absolutely true. And it's a gradual process. And what we leave behind, why people look at buildings, so you can see almost palpable the people who lived there and what they thought about life, etc.
The architecture was gravity-fed. The collection systems were those of nature. I mean, the fact is that when people put a temple in the source of a river or a small stream, whether it was in Kutch or whether it was in South India, all they did was they ensured that the green that existed allowed the water to be filtered and pure water to flow while the silt got held. The same way with our canal systems, all that we did was we used gravity in such a way that we made pools, we gathered the water, we used it, we allowed it to flow without, the contaminated water was channeled away, the pure water was continued, communities downstream used that water. Now, if you look at any of the step wells that exist in various parts from all over, what they did with water was almost pray to it, that it was possible for thousands of years, from Harappan civilizations to Mohenjo-daro to all the Indus Valley civilizations and everywhere else, to continue as a continuum. It was a highly sophisticated method of collecting and distributing water, which, incidentally, now some of the most advanced thinkers in the business of water management are saying, if India is to retain its water security in the future, we will have to go back and resurrect these systems. And this will not be out of a romantic notion of bringing back yesterday. This will be out of the simple, ordinary, realistic notion of I want to drink water.
Can the traditional thought of India be brought to bear upon the modern world? One of the first to try to achieve this synthesis was Mahatma Gandhi. He was a pioneer in the philosophy of decentralized political control, small local solutions, and appropriate technology in harmony with the environment, which is only now finding favor throughout the globe.
Water harvesting traditions, vital to an arid land, are now being revived. A simple experiment shows what can be done by a committed individual with a large dose of local wisdom. Here in Ralegaon Siddhi, a small revolution is underway, spearheaded by Anna Hazare.
आज़ादी के बाद महात्मा गांधी ने एक सपना देखा था बलशाली भारत का कि देश को तो आज़ादी मिल गई, अब हमें इस देश को बलशाली भारत खड़ा करना है। तो कैसे खड़ा हो सकता है? तो गांधी जी ने संदेश दिया था कि गांव में चलो, देहात में चलो। जब तक स्वावलंबी देहात, स्वयंपूर्ण देहात, स्वयं शासित देहात, ऐसे देहात जब तक खड़े नहीं होंगे तब तक के लिए देश नहीं बनेगा। जैसे हर इंसान के लिए मृत्यु अटल है, ऐसे हर डैम के लिए मृत्यु अटल है, वो आने वाला है। और एक एक डैम के मृत्यु में लाखों का मृत्यु समाया है। इसलिए वो डैम का मृत्यु अगर बचाना है तो ऐसे छोटे छोटे स्ट्रक्चर बनाने पड़ेंगे, गांव को केंद्र बिंदु मानना, क्योंकि हर गांव ये किसी न किसी डैम का कैचमेंट है। हर गांव में जो वर्षा गिरती है और वर्षा के साथ बहकर जाने वाली मिट्टी ये किसी न किसी डैम में जा रही है। तो हमें गांव को केंद्र बिंदु मानकर उसमें वर्षा का पानी और पानी के साथ बहने वाली मिट्टी अपने गांव में कैसे रोके, तब ये डैम बचा सकेंगे।
Indian religious beliefs and philosophical thought, tribal traditions, folk customs, Gandhian thinking, our artistic heritage, as well as indigenous technology and medicine, all underline the importance of living in harmony with the environment and protecting our natural resources. At least we know that there is in the mind of virtually every Indian a belief in protecting the environment, backed by a long tradition which acts upon every individual, albeit unconsciously. The difficult task is to persuade every Indian, and indeed the world, of the dangers faced by us if we ignore the environment. All the wisdom of India must be harnessed if this task is to be successful.